and it's absolutely exciting. So without further ado, there's the team.
Okay, going in inverse order to that sequence to the question, our program starts with something called the Community of Learners based on the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, contribution, and commitment. 3 out of 4. So this is a student-based code of conduct, and we start the process by getting all the grade 8s together at the beginning of the year in the multi-purpose room, all 270 next year, about 250 this year, along with staff, including EAs, and also several VIU students come and help with us. And we spend better part of a full morning anyway, going through with the group. This is a scanning process, really. We start by asking them what they know about what a community is. We then move on to what they think it means to be a learner, and then we put them together and ask them what they believe a community of learners would look like. And after that part is done, as I said, it takes an hour or 2 to get that done as a whole group. Then we go back to our classrooms with our pods and carry on with a discussion around what each of the 4 C's would look like, sound like, and feel like. So classes do this individually and then eventually come up with a classroom mantra, code of conduct, and we use this as our level 1 RTI piece as well. These posters will go up on the wall in the classroom and stay up there all year. So when we want to redirect behavior, rather than referring to, say, a student handbook with which these are completely compatible, but we would refer to the code of conduct that they created themselves. And also along with this is the assessment tool we used and passed out to you earlier at reporting times. The students self-assess on their adherence to an incorporation of the 4 C's into their learning. And we use the same descriptive feedback with this that we do in our other academic areas. More on that a little bit later. Based on the frequency with which they bring the 4 C's into their education, into their learning.
So I just want to know why
nice segue.
Self-assessment and how it supports you.
I like it because it gives me a chance to give my own feedback and take responsibility for my work and reevaluate what we did during the day and on the topic.
And everyone is held responsible for themselves. Mm-hmm. And no one can say, I didn't know. You did know.
And so the final piece to this, again early in the year, is to come together as a whole grade group one more time. And well, actually, we've made a plaque by passing it around to each classroom and having each class's mantra put up on the poster or on the plaque, and along with, it's hard to see, but every grade 8's signature is on there as well, and it's now hanging in the grade 8 locker bay at our school as a legacy from this year's class to future grade 8 students.
So I'm one of our school's counselors, and I have the interesting position of a front row seat as students shift to a new way of learning. There's a wee uphill battle in shifting a culture. To learn to be a self-directed, lifelong learner is a challenging task, and when it's new, it's certainly not without some stress. Students understanding and promoting their learning from a metacognitive perspective bookends what the students know of themselves and what the parents know of their students. We have some very interesting conversations when those kids go home. I can see that to build comfort in shifting mindsets, it's many conversations by many educators in many different settings. And I can also see that the advantage of helping students become self-regulated learners is worth every one of those conversations. Where the community of learners is most beautiful from my vantage point as the one who sits with the angry, the anxious, and the overwhelmed, is in our potting of classes and our building of community. The research is really clear on the benefits of belonging. We humans have an inherent desire to belong and to be an important part of something greater than ourselves. I have a real sense that with our community of learners, we're on the right track. Belongingness is a fundamental human motivation. Maslow's got it in his hierarchy. It's one just above safety. When we don't belong, the consequences can be uncomfortable. Some of us go inwards towards depression, often a female response. Some of us act outwards. One of our male responses. Through belonging to a community, the research shows that students often have an improved sense of self, but a better ability to self-regulate, to engage, to focus, to manage impulsivity. And very important for all of us, when you belong, it becomes more costly to misbehave. In my world of the angry, the anxious, and the overwhelmed, since our students have been placed in pods and schooled in the community of learners, I have had fewer students referred to me for socially unkind behavior. It could be that our world's evolving and our students are of a more gentle breed, but I think it has something to do with the community of learners and the direction that we're heading in our school. We still have Robert and Hannah who haven't quite got it yet, but the early data has me cautiously wondering if our students are inching up slightly on that social responsibility rubric. My job really is to encourage students to be the best they can be and to support students to feel comfortable at school. So student comments such as, my learning feels more sophisticated, I feel more comfortable in school, I have more strategies for solving problems, and I feel more confident and accepted by people in my classes, has me buying in. As an educator, I'm curious, I'm interested, I'm invested in what comes next in this project that we've embarked on.
And as part of our program, we've been doing a few shifts in our school culture and our pedagogy, and one of them is the bringing in inquiry or project-based learning, and to create a more interdisciplinary learning environment for students. And at a secondary level, we are comfortable with all our academic subjects neatly separated. We have our math, our science, our English, and our social studies. And very few opportunities for these subjects to meet. So, but what if in a program, in a school, where we can bring these subjects together to remove some of the walls and the barriers that exist among these subjects and help the students see a connection with all the things that they can learn at school, and to help them learn about the real life in a real world situation. We have created different themes throughout the year, and this is one of our major themes, the overarch, the different subject areas. So this is our Aboriginal understandings. So during this time, the students are learning more about Aboriginal culture and understanding their way of life. We have also inquired on questions such as, what impact did European colonies have on the Aboriginal culture and their way of life? What of my own heritage? How do other cultures represent numbers? I wonder what medicines were used to heal. And how do I figure out how far apart two villages are from reading a map? So bringing in content from different subject areas under a theme. I'm going to show you a video. This is after an Aboriginal understanding project.
Why does it matter that we learn about Aboriginal understanding? It matters that we learn about understanding Aboriginal culture and history so we can respect and understand that the history was destructive. People live in a place where community and history is isolated. It matters because not many people understand the unique culture of the Aboriginals. As youth, we need to understand what the culture was of the people that once inhabited Canada. My message is that all cultures, whether old or new, are worth investigating. The Aboriginals' culture was saved because of the explorers, so we need to understand what the culture was before the explorers set foot on land.
When I learned about this topic, I learned how the Aboriginal people use storytelling of morals, life lessons passed down from generation to generation, and the importance of social contact and relationship building.
It matters that I learned about this topic so we can see how into the Native people are with their land. They are stereotyped too much. The fact is that they are cunning and smart, and because of quick thinking, they flourish.
I think it mattered that we learned about this Aboriginal understanding, because now we know how the tribes would live off the land and not just go out to Walmart.
Like that, Nate?
Yeah.
So, assessment. How do we assess student learning? There's definitely a shift in that. There's more policy coming out very soon. I know you're excited. You're smiling over this one. This is good. What we know is we have to change, and we can't continue with the ranking system. There's far too much research that's telling us that. We're also learning from our students so much more. That testimony that you heard from the kids there is just evidence of that. They understand. They know what their message is. They didn't need to be 6 out of 10 on that, or 9 out of 10 on that. It doesn't tell them anything. So we have to start thinking about what the student is good at, and what do they need to improve as learners. So the whole focus is really shifting towards that learner center. So we have to have some research, and here they are. When assessment is used to promote learning, it raises student achievement, most substantially for the lowest achieving students. And we're starting to really see the impact on giving students descriptive feedback, teaching them how to use performance standards, creating those rubrics with them. I've actually had opportunity where kids were creating the rubric based on the BC performance standard for reading for information, for example. So they're starting to realize what their responsibility is, and they're also saying, can I just try this? And it's really making good sense for them. So their role now, they're very active. They'll tell you what they're good at. They also know what their weaknesses are. And then they've got to know, why does it make a difference that they're learning what they are? So with that active role, they've got to own the criteria, because that's their journey, their roadmap to success. They do peer and self-assessment using the performance standards. Something we have learned is, I know when I started this a number of years ago, yes, just read your buddy's work and then give them some feedback. I like your printing, good job. You said something good. Empty words, they don't fill us up with any next steps. There's no pictures in my mind that I can see I've got to do this differently. Also for teachers, we give only the comments, feedbacks for consistent language using those performance standards. I think that that's a big thing I'm learning myself as an educator, that if we've got performance standard language and we give feedback using that language, then the kids are really starting to zoom in and zero in on what it is they have to do to make the change. Then here's the key. Give them the chance to resubmit. Learning is a progression. It's not first term over on October 12th, and that's the end of that. We'll average it out for you. It's a progression all the way through the year. So where were you at the start of the year, and then where are you at the end of the year, and how are you progressing as you go along? So we heard all about this morning, metacognition. Let's get there. It's very easy for these kids. You basically saw a testimony where they said why it mattered that they learned what they did and what's their message. They have a message. There are pieces out of that. I love that he said not Walmart. That's a connection. That's a big, deep connection. And to be able to share that means that there's something within all that learning that made a difference. And what did you connect to? There weren't Walmarts around, but there was the land, and then the learning goes on from there. So students have given testimony, and this is a student's ideas.
Okay. With the letter grade, you really only see the A, but with feedback, you can actually see what I need to work on and fix it. That's the difference between a 90% in feedback and 90% feedback.
I feel like that should be a poster or something. Dave's gonna carry on.
Okay. Around assessment, just this is our tool that we use at Dover with our grade 8s and grade 9s as far as assessment goes, and it's really become foundational for all our classes at the school. I like it because there's no numbers on it. It's a 4-point scale, but it's not, because there's no numbers, and we know that kids will look at the numbers and parents will look at the numbers, and then they won't look at anything else. The language is pretty simple. Okay, kids will connect to novice and apprentice and journeyman and master. Social Studies 8 curriculum, right? So they will see that. It's 4 points, so they mentioned performance standards, which is also a 4-point scale, right? It's easily connectable. It's also easily adaptable to multiple subjects. Our phys ed department has adapted this rubric slightly to fit into their phys ed classes. Our languages department has adapted this to fit in with their notion of assessment. But we've seen common language spreading throughout the school as far as assessment goes. That's easier for students to understand if they're hearing and seeing the same things every day. It's easier for parents to understand if they're hearing and seeing the same things every day, right? So as we communicate with parents and as students see this more and more, then that language becomes spread throughout the school. In our student support classrooms, this language is used. Our counselors use this language. So it's really become, or more becoming, common around the school. Our growth mindset, where are we going? This is next steps. Continuing to collaborate and reflect by all staff. Like I said, we're grade 8 and 9 right now, but more and more teachers are using this terminology, using this language, talking and learning about formative assessment. We know it's coming, so that's going to continue. We didn't really share our report card, but we've built kind of a new, different way to report as well. You know how your favorite comment was "Have a good summer."
Number 164.
Ours is now "See attached," because all that information, all that formative assessment, all that feedback is now attached to the report card, and that's all they see. We did provide a letter grade, I think, in February, but we didn't really want to. That's the way it goes. Continue to bring common language around assessment and community of learners to other parts of the school. Commitment, communication, collaboration, all those, and the other one. I got 3 again. Right? Yeah, next time it'll be a different 3. Around the school, in every part of the school, if kids are hearing and seeing the same language used and they're seeing the same information on the board, it becomes part of what they know and what they do at school, and they take that home and their parents know and they understand. And the conversations at report card time are a lot different than they have been. Increasing formal and informal meetings between pod teachers to collaborate on interdisciplinary big idea inquiry studies. Every Monday in our district we have PLC time, Monday afternoons, so school ends at around 2 o'clock, and we have that hour to collaborate and get together and meet, and this is where some of this conversation would happen, but also in the hallways or at lunchtime or 7 minutes between classes or whatever. And then constantly improving communication with parents, colleagues, and feeder schools. Last year when we started, it was a little rough because we had some job action going on. So it was a little, it was an awkward start, but you know, we carried on and we persevered. And this year, because we were able to have that extra time, we were able to communicate a lot more with parents. And the feedback that we got from parents is, I don't think I'm lying, way more positive this year than it was last year. So that's that.
So the sheet that you have in front of you that has a community of learners on it, something that we took a huge risk with, and thank you so much to our amazing principal Robin Gray for really getting behind us and yeah, you know what, let's try this. So what you have in front of you is actually a reporting tool. So the students fill it out and it goes home. And it actually, this was before the core competencies. Wow, we were ahead of the game. So we see that this directly connects with the core competencies, and this is a reporting tool. And so with this reporting tool, parents are really understanding the engagement that their child is showing, because you can see the frequency scale, if you will, down at the bottom there. And credit goes to Damien Cooper. We had a Canadian Assessment for Learning Network Symposium last April, and I gave this to him to ask him, what do you think about how we're asking the kids to rate themselves? And he said, this really is frequency. So he said, if you have those descriptors down there, what are they frequently, routinely, frequently, seldom, barely, those are frequencies. Okay, great, that makes sense. And then you can see how we've even changed this year, because with the Mastery Capable Developing Requires Assistance, they're linking themselves, and we're trying to keep our assessment terminology the same. But if you just put down mastery, we thought we would get a lot of, so what does that mean? So that's why we kept the frequency there, and so thanks to Damien for that piece. It's amazing what happens when you have a conversation. If you turn over the paper, this is something that I tried myself this year. We are going to make this practice next year, but somebody has to go out there and try it. So Brown, get out there, try it. Okay, I will, see what happens. And what we realize is this information here, which goes back to the metacognitive thinking, and of course the 4 questions: what's working for you as a learner, what tools and strategies help you improve as a learner, and for me, most importantly, why does it matter that you learned what you did, and what's your message you want others to get? Those are so critical, because now we've got kids as learners, and they're showing us and telling us. So that is a piece next year that we are going to not have them turn over and just print as you did in Brown's room really quickly this year. It will look really pretty, and oh, I think they'll do that part. They'll techie-ize it, and it's going to be amazing. I just wanted to finish off with a video that actually our district borrowed from Google, just a little person to borrow from. But we think that it really encapsulates all that we are doing as a team here and how we're moving forward. And I think you're going to realize this is in everybody's context, and maybe you've already seen it.
Imagine the awesomest thing you can, like an automatic grilled cheese maker, or a time machine,